The book opens up with you as a very young man leaving your home in New York to attend Berklee College of Music in Boston,
Hmm.
an institution that comes up a lot on this show. A lot
Yeah,
of
no, it's an
graduates.
amazing
Yeah,
place.
apparently you went there intending to major in guitar performance, but a faculty member named Bill Levitt steered you in the direction of a composition degree instead, which is
Yes.
probably wise in retrospect. Obviously, Bill was impressed by your talent and happy to instruct you, but he thought you would benefit from some additional lessons with another teacher named John Damian, who was more up on emerging progressive styles like fusion. Your first encounter with him is the source of the title of the book. It sounds like that was quite a moment for you.
It was an amazing moment, and so much so that not only the book was, but my life. My life was actually kind of repaired. And just quickly, in 1994, I was living in Granada Hills, California, which was 1.5 miles from the Northridge earthquake, which was 7 point something in the epicenter. The epicenter was, a lot of times in the epicenter, you don't get it as bad as just a mile or two away. I was really messed up. I mean, the firemen had to take me out of the place. The door was unopenable. The house, the apartment was, I was not allowed back in, and ended up not sleeping at least for 6 or 7 days. I was in the back of a Mustang hatchback in a parking lot, and there were aftershocks. And anyway, when simply at the end of the week, I wasn't myself anymore. I don't know, even remembering now, I'm not sure what exactly happened, but I just did not care about anything. I didn't want to eat. I didn't want to live. I didn't want to work. I didn't care about anything except for the dog that I had. His name was Bubbles. And that was it. I cared that she was surviving, that she was eating, that she was playing. And I just wanted to sleep. And indeed, I went to the bed for 6 months. And that's what this book started at. And then when I reached back, when I started to find that I needed to live and I wanted to find joy and happiness, what happened with John Damian in the book, I don't know how deep you want to get with this, was the reason why I regained my life. And it was a music lesson.
Well, the name of the book is Hear the Silence, and the first time you
Yes.
met him, what he asked you to do was turn the lights off. You just met him. Hi, I'm John Damian. Turn the
Well,
lights
he
off.
turned the lights off.
You turn the lights off.
He turned the lights. I mean, I walked into in a college room. These are not giant rooms. And I'm sitting maybe 2, 3 feet from him. And he shuts the lights off. I'm 19 years old.
Yeah.
I didn't think that anything good was going to come out of that. I had heard about him too. I had heard that this John Damian was a bit of a freak. Indeed, he was not a freak. He's an enormous genius. He just didn't play by the rules. He didn't do anything. Berklee was teaching jazz and teaching rock and teaching how to read and composition and arranging, and he didn't follow that. So he turned off the lights and he says to me, "What do you hear?" And I heard nothing. I just heard nothing. And suddenly somebody slammed the door. I said, I hear the door slam. He said, "Good, Jamie." And I was like, okay, this is too weird.
Yeah.
And anyway, in the book, I explain what happened after that. But his lesson was all of the things that I said I did not hear were there.
They were present.
There was a list, 10. In the book, I don't even write the whole list. It was an hour lesson. But it was incredible. I mean, when at the end of the session, I could hear both his heart and my heart, which incredible. You hear about people who are don't have their sight, being able to hear more of the sounds, And this indeed, when the sensory deprivation happened here, with me not being able to see in the dark, I could actually hear the heartbeats.
Right. Do you remember a show in the 70s, a TV show called Kung Fu?
Yes.
You know, and where Cain as a boy meets Master Po for the first time, who's blind, it tells how he gets his nickname Grasshopper. You didn't hear it, but I started the podcast with that clip because
Oh,
when I read your book, I was reminded of it. He tells him to close his eyes, and what do you hear? And like
uh-huh.
he doesn't hear anything, and he goes, "You don't hear the grasshopper at your feet," you know, and that's why
Yes.
he calls him Grasshopper, because like you say, the elevated senses. And then in terms of the earthquake, normally we associate PTSD with war and soldiers. And it honestly never occurred to me to associate with anything else. But this experience you had was so violent, so harrowing, so intense, and so disorienting, very similar to a war experience, that it would make sense that you would have the same type of reaction that a soldier would. I mean, I've experienced earthquakes from hundreds of miles away that made my house shake. In
Wow.
California, and even here in Arizona, there was one. I was sitting, my kids were asleep, I was watching TV. The wall started to rumble, and I thought, the only thing that would cause that here would be a helicopter flying low or a
Super.
big truck driving by. But it just did, something was off. And the next morning I woke up, I Googled Arizona earthquake, and I'll be damned, there was one. And so when you said you were like a mile away from the epicenter, I said, it had to feel like, and you were on a second floor apartment, right?
The thing is, yeah, I mean, when it started, it was so violent that the lights went off in maybe 15 seconds. But what I saw were the walls going in and out, and the whole apartment. There's a ride. I don't know if it's a ride, but it used to be there at Universal Studios where they emulate the earthquake, and it is an experience. I'd been through a couple before this one, but nothing like this. And there was an added element that I think helped me, or shouldn't use the word help me, to get PTSD from this, was that I was doing a gig in Bosnia, and there was indeed some bombing going on, hundreds and hundreds of miles away. The U.S. Embassy wanted us out of there. I had never, ever heard a bomb. I'm not a hunter. I don't like guns, particularly in any way. I've never held a gun or ammunition of any kind. And I'm hearing this bombing, and we were told, you got to get out of here. And that we got on a plane, and then we went for 14 hours on a plane. And when I got home, I couldn't sleep. So I turned on my recording equipment. This was 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning. The earthquake happened at 6 something. So when the room shook, the chandelier fell, the guitars fell on me, the crashing sound, the rumbling, my mind went directly to the bombing. And for whatever reason, that defense mechanism of my brain decided that I was just killed, that I was indeed dead. And I would say that the shock of it, the fact that I thought I was dead, but yet my dog was still there, that there was little signs that brought me back to thinking, well, maybe I didn't die. I still didn't know it was an earthquake. We had an earthquake 7 years before that where I saw the lawn going up and down. That was an experience.
Wow.
And I had a little pool. It was 10 feet long, and the whole pool came out of the ground. It was fiberglass.
Wow.
Things happen like that, but nothing like this, right? So indeed, the lack of sleep, the lack of acknowledging, there are a lot of people in my building went immediately for psychiatric help. Some of them moved immediately. I had one guy who was 2 doors away from me in the condo who couldn't leave quick enough. He left all his stuff in the condo, got on a plane, and went to New Jersey. He said, "I'll send for my stuff I'm out of here."
Right.
It was that terrifying. And some people suggested I go for some help, and I refused to go. And that was the first mistake.
Well, you included the detail about the laughing doll.
Oh my Lord. I don't want to give it all away, but yeah.
I don't either, but I'll just summarize it for you. Basically, you had a little doll that you would use with music students to break the tension. They make a mistake, and this doll laughs. And so the earthquake, you're in the dark, there's dust, what's going on? And the doll starts laughing. That must have just been freaky.
And it's kind of an even, like, And what it was is a doll on a spring. And when you pull on her legs, it would activate the voice box. Well, because of the unbelievable trembling, Dan, the doll was pulled down by the gravitational pull and the shaking. And that's what happened. The doll went off by itself. And so now I think I'm dead. I'm covered in debris. There's glass on me. I'm bleeding. My dog is in a closet somewhere, and there's laughter happens. And I'm not a religious person, but along with thinking I died, I thought that I went to hell because of all the movies I'd seen, and here was Satan, and I was done for. So, without making it more flowery or exaggerating anything, my brain decided to turn off. I mean, that's all I could put it. Here was Jamie, and now here's the new world. I am now this. And the this was not good. I can tell you that much. This for 2 years was not good. And so I wrote the book. By the way, I would like to thank you because you've not only, I know you do your homework, but I am very, very gratified that you know this book, and my music makes me feel good. Dan, thank you, man.
It's been a pleasure listening to your music, reading your book, talking to you now, and I'm sure this relationship will continue on. But what you just described, I mean, it sounds like an actual bona fide living nightmare. There's no other word for it but nightmare. And prior to this event, you had tendencies toward bipolar and manic behavior. You talked about going to the airport with no luggage and just boarding random planes with no real regard for the destination. You were blowing off lucrative gigs just to watch TV. You were throwing paychecks out the car window instead of cashing them. And you eventually reached a point where you had no food, no money, no utilities, serious disorders to contend with. You're basically living the life of a mentally disturbed homeless person. So you very deeply and profoundly understand what it means to hit rock bottom, but thankfully you had a support network of caring people to help you through it.
These things you mentioned happened after the earthquake.
Right.
Before the earthquake, I was just a hyper kind of guy.
Okay.
No detrimental stuff. I mean, I did stuff that in retrospect, maybe I shouldn't have done. I was loaded with money. I was making $60,000 just playing weddings and bar mitzvahs. That's not to count the studio work. I mean, I was doing really well. And I'd walk by Nissan and see a new car that came in from Japan, and I'd be carrying $30,000 cash on my wallet. And I'd just say, okay, I want that car. I mean, I wasn't Beyonce, but I had a little taste of what being overly wealthy was. And fortunate, I do say in the book, that I didn't go down the path of other people with gambling or drugs. I wasn't a saint, but the other things, there was kind of this cross thing. Once I got ill and nothing mattered, then the stuff got stranger. Mm-hmm. I mean, now that I look back, it's things I did just didn't make sense to anybody. And a lot of people knew that I didn't drink, but my stories, my experiences were very much like someone who drinks. So it's the same. It all ended up in the same place. So yes, because of the fact that I'm energetic, and doctors need to find something, there was a suggestion that there was a possibility of some manic stuff, bipolar, except that I never had any black hole and I was never depressed, not for 45 years. So the bipolar thing went away because bipolar people. True bipolar is two poles. They're manic, and then they go into severe depression, well known as the black hole. I didn't have that. But of course, if my psychiatrist, knows that I was in bed for 6 months, to him, that's a pretty big black hole.
Yeah, or a sign of depression, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, well, if you look at it from a bipolar, I mean, when I was doing the research for the book, and for myself to get healthy, I wanted to know more about bipolar. So I go to centers. I went to the library often. I went to places, mental health institutions, to see and to view people who were considered bipolar. I communicated with people who had people in their family who was bipolar. There's one in particular that guy, a musician, apparently a very good musician in Pennsylvania, was out in the snow on his front step naked. He bought a banjo at Guitar Center, and he would go out to practice completely naked. And he was severely bipolar. So after he did this, and he got all kind of manic and joyous that he was in nature, freezing to death playing, he would go into super depression and want to kill himself. And this is an example of how out there bipolar can get. And therefore, as the diagnosis and my therapy continued, the diagnosis of bipolar and the meds for bipolar were taken away. So we were positively PTSD, accompanied by depression, and also maybe some change of life stuff because I'd been spoiled. You know, when I got out of Berklee College of Music in 1977, the same summer, the summer where I graduated, I got the gig with Jean-Luc, who was a big star. So I went from being a student to being a rock star. It's kind of like you hear about these child stars. Then I went with Manhattan Transfer, who had a lady who dressed me and picked my clothes. I had a road manager who woke me up, put me to bed. The food was supplied. I didn't even know how to use a checkbook. So strangely, in my therapy, Dan, with the psychiatrist, that was some of the therapy. I had to bring in a checkbook. I don't write about this in the book.
Yeah. And as you said, we don't want to give away the whole book.
Yeah.
I just want to touch on parts of it. But, you know, as I said, also without going into the specifics, people can read the book or listen to the audiobook. You had a support network of caring people who got you through your worst times. But what I want to talk now is about your love of animals and the importance they've played in your life. I've seen some walk around behind you. The listeners have heard some in the background. You speak very fondly about Bubbles, your dog, and Lucky, your three-legged chinchilla, and how truly deep those friendships ran. You know, I've seen a lot of people get more upset about the loss of a pet than the loss of a family member, you know, probably because animals can sometimes be more compassionate and certainly more loyal than their human counterparts. I'm guessing you would agree with that.
The unconditional love is, I think, not even close to what I can get from them, what I got from them, what I still get from them. I was taught to speak telepathically to animals years ago. I write music for Animal Planet and have dealt with a lot of animal communicators and stuff, and they have a great talent. I was taught some of this, and right now, Dan, I have this has been a tough week for me. I had the same kind of relationship I had with Lucky the chinchilla in the book with a rabbit who passed away this week unexpectedly.
Yeah, I heard about that.
Yeah, no, this was mind-boggling, painful for me, you know. But Bubbles, the dog, somehow knew that I was ill. She loved her walks and she loved to go outside. And here I was with, I didn't even, Dan and listeners, I didn't even turn on the TV. I mean, for a guy like me, I sleep 4 or 5 hours a night. I was sleeping, aside from taking her out to walk, 24 hours a day. I wouldn't eat. I was down to like a 25 waist. I looked like a junkie, I would have one slice of pizza. That would be my food for the day. Piece of toast. It's shocking what a human being is capable of, or when this happens. Anyway, Bubbles would paw at me in the bed or bark at me. I'd be asleep, and she would roll, 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 roll. And I was like, "Come on, Bubbles, I don't want to do nothing," and she wouldn't stop. And then we'd go for the walk. And what would happen, slowly but surely, I'd start to feel good. I start to appreciate that people were going somewhere. I'd start to appreciate that the trees were beautiful, that there was an orange on a tree. And I remember one day she dragged me to this area where there were 3 orange trees. And again, I was eating very unhealthfully, no vegetables, no salads, no vitamins, no nothing. She was sniffing around at the oranges. Unusual for a dog, actually, I think.
Yeah.
And so I picked it up, and it was dripping. It was slightly cut, maybe from falling in the cement, and it fell onto my hand. And it was hot out, and I licked my hand. And Dan, if I tell you this was like, if you believe in God or a higher power, this was like the message. You're alive. This was so deep for me that I can feel it in my chest right now. That orange juice was like, you're alive. Wake up. And I remember I took the orange, I broke the skin open, and I wiped it on my face. The orange juice was dripping down my nose, my eyes, my face, my neck, onto my dirty T-shirt. on my sneaker. I felt like someone I won the lottery, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And Bubbles took me on that walk. She dragged me I would let her be the boss. She was my whole life, you know? And she saved my life, man. She saved my life. And lucky too, the chinchilla would just play and do stuff for no reason, have fun. And I didn't have fun anymore.
Well, it comes across in the book, and also you saved Bubbles. I mean, Bubbles was infested with ticks and unhealthy and all messed up, and
She was rescued. Yes.
she returned the favor. In 2008, you released an album called Music for Pets and People. And when a guest on the show has a track that features a guinea pig on lead vocals, you know I'm not going to pass that up.
One of the biggest selling things on iTunes for me, too, which is strange.
Well, I played this song for my kids. We mentioned my kids. I played it for them in the car one time with no warning, no explanation about it. It really cracked them up. So I'm going to spin this for the listeners. Check this out.
Yeah. I'm a guinea pig, there's no doubt about that. I eat all day, but I don't get fat. My name is Gemma, how do you do? I wanna sing my song for you. I'm gonna take that cookie, I'm gonna take that cookie, I'm gonna take that cookie right now. I'm gonna take that cookie, I'm gonna take that cookie, I'm gonna take that cookie right now. When the sun goes down and it's time for treats, I can move pretty fast on my little piggy feet. I'm gonna be famous, just you wait and see, 'cause pretty soon you'll be singing my song with me. Sing along. I'm gonna take that cookie, I'm gonna take that cookie, I'm gonna take that cookie right now. I'm gonna take that cookie, I'm gonna take that cookie, I'm gonna take that cookie right now. I'm gonna take that cookie right now. Oh yeah.
So is that based on a true story, the cookie thing?
Well, yes. I went into a tire shop here in Salt Lake City. Their specialty is selling quality used tires. I didn't want to buy new tires, and right next to the water fountain was a cage with a black animal in it, full of hair. Looked kind of like Cousin It, a little bit, if you remember the Addams Family. Just like a mop, for people who are too young to know that show or never saw it. So he looked like a mop. And upon closer look at the cage, I noticed that the bedding was 4 or 5 layers of cardboard, which was completely rotted. And there was at a minimal 4 inches of poop that he was in. And I went over to the people, they were Hispanic, and I said, is this your animal? He says, you like the bunny? You like the bunny? And I said, I like the bunny. Is this your animal? Because my idea was either to lecture the guy or to take him or whatever. And I come to find out that the bunny is a guinea pig.
Yeah.
And indeed, the guinea pig was there with a thing of water. His water bottle was covered in engine oil, not the water, but the outside. He was eating gerbil food. He was sitting in his defecating, and I walked up to the guy and I said, look, I will give you $100 for this animal. I didn't lecture him, whatever. He says, I cannot. He said in Spanish. I understand some Spanish. So it turns out that Gemma, my guinea pig later, he was collateral for a tire from a crackhead.
Oh, wow.
So he gave up the pet, showing good faith that he'd come up with the money for his tire to drive his car. Anyway, I made a deal with the guy. If the guy that gave up the guinea pig did not come back within 24 hours that he would sell me the guinea pig for $100. And I told him guinea pigs in the stores are $15. So he's making a lot of money here.
Yeah.
Well, I come back the next day and I asked, and the guy never came back. So I gave him $100 and I took that guinea pig home to the first guinea pig I've ever had. And this guinea pig, whose name was Gemma, when he'd hear me, I used to eat Famous Amos cookies. And I don't know, from every kind of food I had, if he saw me walk in the room with that yellow bag, he would, you know what a guinea pig sounds like when they want salad or whatever? It said, weak, 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 this weaking. He would flip, man, he'd flip. So I had my guitar. I often practice around the pets. And I wrote the song, I'm going to take this, take that cookie. Mm-hmm. And that's how that started. So yes, it's a true story. And I used to, unfortunately, I'd give him some cookies. But I did want to relate that. I'm so proud that you went out and your kids liked it. I had an awesome experience. And I have a pet forum called Lucky's Place that I've owned for a decade. It's very chinchilla heavy, but we have every animal. And we help each other to learn about the proper care. We share videos. We share our compassion if someone dies. We tell stories, and it's a forum. Free. It's luckysplace.net, if you don't mind me saying. And we've had 100,000 people through there. Anyway, I go to the United Kingdom, and one of the members of the forum wants to meet me. After all, we're on the forum for 6 years together, and I know her pictures, I know her family and stuff. So I go, and she's actually a co-owner of another forum. So I go to meet Sarah, and she says, look, before I meet you, I'd like you to come to where I work, where she is a caretaker and nurse. So I go, and I go to this giant center, and there I'm greeted by 30 plus people who are extremely mentally disabled. Everything from severe Rye syndrome to complete, utter, they can't do anything physically. They're completely disabled. And Sarah introduces me. And man, I don't want to cry on the radio. She says, this is Jamie. You all know Take That Cookie?
Oh, they know the song.
And I said, what, And, man, everybody starts running up to me to hug me. And, grown, these people are 50, 60 years old and 12. And they're running up to me like I'm the Pope, Mm-hmm. And suddenly the video from YouTube goes on, which pictures Gemma, the guinea pig, and the song. And the entire 30 plus people sing this song at blasting loud. Some can't sing it. I'm going to take that cookie. Right. And they're all clapping. And so when I did this album, Music for Pets and People had a misunderstanding that this album was somehow, because there are a lot of albums being made now for your pet bird to calm down your parrot. This is not what that album. The album was Music for Pets and People because when I recorded, most of my pets were in the room. And also the album is quite esoteric. It's kind of world music with an edge. And then I sing a couple of songs that are about the animals. There was one where one of them passed away, and I sing about that. Because I recognize that most of my fans have great pets,
The Cookie song, it's a unique entry on the album. It's not 12 tracks of that. There's you did an interpretation of Amazing Grace. Many of the tracks are instrumental. There are some vocal performances, including a more serious, emotionally raw song that relates to the matters we've been talking about. I actually want to play it. The song's Thanks for Rescuing Me. I want you to tell us about the experience of writing that.
That you going to play it, or shall I speak?
You can speak after, or you can speak before.
Real quick, because
I think it speaks for itself. Actually,
Thanks for Rescuing Me was actually written for Gemma, the story I told you about the guinea pig.
Yeah.
So we kind of talked about that. The song I'm extremely proud of, in the sense that the Humane Society uses it. Probably 20 or 30 rescues have asked for licensing. I give it away free. and it's my #1 selling song on iTunes.
2008, Jamie Glaser, Music for Pets and People. You get this one, you get the Cookie song, and a bunch of great guitar playing, and you need to check it out. But this is the one I'm going to play.
All alone in a cage too small, I slept my life away. It was like I didn't exist till you gave me love today. Thanks for rescuing me. Thanks for all that you do. Thanks for taking a chance, taking me home with you. If you hadn't come along, I don't know where I'd be. Thanks for showing me love. Thanks for rescuing me. I was cold in a world so cruel. I begged for every meal. Every night I slept in rain and snow, but now love is what I feel. Thanks for rescuing me. Thanks for all that you do. Thanks for taking a chance and taking me home with you. If you hadn't come along, I don't know where I'd be. Thanks for showing me love. Thanks for rescuing me. In the mills, puppies cry, and for fur chinchillas die. Lonely birds wait for your love to heal their wings. Let your love set you free, and I'm sure that you will see. Every animal has a song to sing. Thanks for rescuing me. Thanks for all that you do. Thanks for taking a chance, taking me home with you. If you hadn't come along, I don't know where I'd be. Thanks for showing me love. Thanks for rescuing me. Thanks for showing me love. Thanks for rescuing me.